Hello, Abigail here with the Tarotscopes for Cancer season, Leo Sun, Moon, and Rising. All right, my Leos, I have created a partner video for this. This is the astrology for Cancer season, so you can check that out. I will be sprinkling astrology in this tarot reading as well, but I just wanted to really focus on the cards. I tend to overdo it and do a full astrology run on each one, but we're gonna keep it brief with the astrology, and it'll be in there. But a reminder that we have a really great full and new moon, especially the new moon. The full moon is detriment, but I still think there's great value in it. But the new moon is where it's at. We've got a Jupiter conjunction in domicile, lots of nice stuff. So just be aware that that's kind of the point to do work. Also, we've got some interesting themes already popping up. I do these readings in order, so you are the second in order here, and we've got a repeat card already. So interesting to see where this season is going. We also have the Uranus ingress, so there's a lot of new energy. However, this is also kind of the most prolific time of this season. This kind of, especially the like mid to beginning of Cancer season, is going to be wildly abundant and a lot of energy. So just know. And it also feels like there's a lot of stuff that is starting, especially with that Uranus ingress. It's the first time that Uranus is going Gemini. It will retrograde back, and then we'll be in Gemini fully for the next however many years in 2026. But a lot of new things are happening. And of course, it is represented in your oracle card, which is nascent, which is about kind of the potential of a thing or a moment, that kind of moment in time when you're like, look what this is and can be. And so it feels like this Cancer season is this moment where some doors are opened and you get to see the horizon and you get to see maybe some real clarity for the first time in a while about what you want and what your potential is and where you are best suited to be. It's not always just about the dream, it's also about our capacity to do the dream, whether we actually want the dream when we get to the dream. You know, some of us, me included, have had dreams that just don't really suit us, but they get us to a different point that we needed to be at, even if we never fulfill them, because we realize I would never actually really want that. Which is why I encourage people to always be like, if I was actually in the dream that I have, would I be happy? And not just in the context of like money or having a home and stuff, but like if you have a desired career or something, would you be happy doing that day to day? Mine was opera, and I realized I wouldn't, because there's a lot of abusers that are not ever called out, and I would not be happy shaking hands and being at the table with people who have abused and harmed others. So yeah, put yourself in the context of that job. Would you want to work with these people? Would you want to sit next to the desk with someone else who is also an engineer or a technician, or, you know, or if you're like a private business, can you handle the pressure that we have in the US as private businesses, you know, where you pay so much more in taxes and you don't really have any supports? So just things to consider as we move to our dreams, as you're looking at the potential of things and of you, what truly suits you and also, you know, fulfills your dreams and desires, knowing at the same time that dreams shift and change over time. So it doesn't have to be set in stone, but do consider who you are and what you are when considering your dreams this season, because with that square with Saturn, while it is difficult, a lot of the stuff we do now is going to stick. So know that when you're throwing paint at a wall, it's going to be there for a minute. So this nascent moment is this moment of potential. And part of the reason I bring up kind of making decisions and reconsidering things is because we have a Two of Swords, which is about choices. And it is about kind of being at a crossroads. I love that this card kind of has fire. There's a bit of danger here. There's a bit of, you know, a need to have caution. I will also remind us that the Two of Swords isn't always not two swords. It's not always just one path. You can sometimes do both and, but be aware of where you're sticking your resources. Be aware of what happens if you do take two paths at the same time. Eventually, they will need to converge. So this Cancer season, you're going to have the choices. Also, a very important reminder at the very end of Cancer season, Mercury goes retrograde in Leo, your sign. So just be aware that that is coming, and most of Cancer season is in that pre-shadow phase. So yeah, we have choices. I do think, especially this coming at the beginning, these are choices that we will revisit later on, probably sometime in Leo season when we hit the end of that Mercury retrograde. So just know that especially at the beginning, it's less about the choices we're making and more about the thought process behind said choices. And then we get this card, and this is the repeat card in the exact same position from the other reading I did for Cancers. Three of Wands. This entire season is a portal. It's a really beautiful moment of being able to step into our dreams, to step into our desires, to really listen and work and collaborate with the universe, stepping through, picking away. I did say there's a lot of choices and different ones, but this one feels like a slightly different path. Maybe this is a magical or spiritual portal. Maybe this is an understanding of ourself as a person. But something that is kind of coming up over and over again, especially like nascent and things like that, is that this is the time to really manifest and engage and desire things. You know, the wands are about desires and passions and instincts. You know, what do you need to do in this season? What portal do you need to step through? What unknown is calling to you? And I think this is really important, especially because of its partner card. You know, sometimes the cards feel like they stand alone, sometimes they feel like they are buddies. And these two kind of came out of the deck with their faces down. The Ace of Wands. So, in this moment of stepping through, we are also starting something new. And I really love that this wand is presented as a calligraphy brush. You know, we are telling stories, we are writing history. We get to choose what we step through. And something that's kind of been coming through a lot this Cancer season is this need to shift the narrative, this need to change the internal story so that we can change the external stories. What internal stories are you rewriting? What programming are you putting in the fire and then writing a new one for yourself? We cannot shift the world if we do not shift ourselves. And we also cannot wait to shift ourselves. So it is this dual action of stepping through and acting and rewriting things simultaneously so that we don't continue the cycles of our ancestors, that we don't continue the oppression that we so desperately need to be freed from. So this is a potential moment for like shifting our career and stuff, but it's also a potential moment to changing the world, to transforming our beliefs and our understandings of the systems and structures we live in. And also very Saturn and Aries with all this wands, how to change the structures and to burn them down in order to build something new and beautiful. You can burn and fight all you want, but if you don't have a plan for the future, you will not do things in a way that is growth focused and possible, you know, to be rebuilt. You can't rebuild something easily if you've indiscriminately harmed your environment and the people around you, which a lot of world leaders ignore in their desperation for power and their greed and hunger for dominance. They destroy and burn everything. So, which is then how you also can tell when someone is completely cruel and evil, right? So, really consider the stories you are writing and the passions you're putting out into the world and the steps you are taking to create something better than the people who came before us. Every generation has an obligation to really empower the next generation. And those who don't have failed on their path and will have to do it again next time when they're reincarnated. And those who do have learned a really valuable lesson and have left a really beautiful gift for the people in their past, and they get to progress. So, really focus on what you're putting out and what you're engaging in and how you're shifting the narrative around you. I know it can feel really hopeless and like we're really small at times like this, but do not forget you are a grain of sand on a seashore, and that seashore is filled with millions of other grains of sand, and you're not alone. And then we have a Six of Wands. I love this. There are victories to be had here, there are battles to be won. I love this theme of the wands. I also think it's really interesting that we kind of start with swords and we're going to end with some swords. But there's a lot of threes. We have a multiple of three. We have the Three of Wands. I'll give you a spoiler. The last card is the Three of Swords. Um, which is a really divine number. So there's a lot of really beautiful, wonderful things. Maybe look up what 333 means. You know, and I love this card because this is about the celebration of the moment. What is there in your life to be celebrated? What victory have you achieved? What moment are you living in where you have mastered something or found something special. It can be something really small or something really big. So I challenge you to really engage with this, Leos. I also love that you being a fire sign get all this fire energy in. Really celebrate Cancer season. And I know a lot of time with Cancer season, we can kind of talk about its gentleness and tenderness, but don't forget the Cancer is the ocean. There is wild, mighty power in there. There is abundance, and there's also death, and there's also terror in the ocean. So, it's not all about warm fuzzies. Cancers are not all about being warm and fuzzy. And this season is also not about that. This season is about progress and growth and achieving really beautiful things within the context of your community and your life. So celebrate those things. And also, if you're feeling like you haven't had a victory, there are victories here in Cancer season. And last, but definitely not least, the Three of Swords. It's a really difficult card sometimes. And I think some people either overblow it or it's just a battle of, I heard another reader say recently it was a battle of head over heart. And it doesn't really feel that way. Maybe it is in some context. I'll probably eat my words later. That's usually how this works. But in this context, it does feel like there is a process that we are moving through of understanding of the consequences of our actions, of pain and of struggle. So, there is some pain and some stuff to be found in Cancer season, but also within this, there is also healing. And I really do think if we're thinking about, I often associate this card with Chiron. Chiron is in Aries. Everything that goes into Leo is going to be trining Aries. Um, we have some wounds to heal and we have some pain to deal with. We also have probably reoccurring trauma. Living in the world and the systems we live in is innately traumatizing. And there is no shame or guilt in recognizing that we are being traumatized by our government. We're being traumatized by the wealthy. We're being traumatized by the lies that we are told about who gets what and who deserves to live and who deserves to have safety. And it's important to recognize that we are suffering. So understand that. I don't think that these cards are juxtaposed as opposites. I think that they are integrated. So this power and this forward progression, while recognizing the pain that we need to navigate and to tend to while doing it, is both essential to either of these kind of perspectives. Anyways, my dears, that is my reading for this season. There is an understanding and some painful recognition happening, but there's a lot of celebration and change and shifts that I'm really excited for you, especially with nascent. There's so much potential. Anyways, please like and subscribe. Pop anything new questions you have in the comments. You can find me on other sites, yada, yada, yada. Anyways, my Leos, have a very blessed Cancer season, and I'll see you in a different space and time.